You are now listening to 1 Timothy 4:13 Project with the undershepherds of the Cathedral of Praise Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall with Pastora Alisha Sumrall-Lozano.
Good evening. Welcome again to Project 1 Timothy chapter 4. I'm Pastor Sumrall, the pastor of the Cathedral of Praise, and joining us tonight will be Pastora A. She's doing Proverbs for us this year, wisdom from the Book of Proverbs. Sister Bev will be joining us. She'll pick up with the Book of Leviticus in just a few weeks. So this is going to be a family event this year. Thank you for letting us be a part of your life. The greatest honor and privilege that people ever give a pastor is to let us be a part of your life. The greatest privilege and honor that young people ever give, Sister Bev and I, is to include us in your life. When you bring the potential fiancé and introduce, it always makes me feel so special. I'm not there to give permission, but forgive me, I'm there to enjoy watching you fall in love. When you come and you share that you've got the broken arm now and the ring is on your finger, I look at the two of you and I so enjoy. My role in life is not to give you permission to do the will of God, but I do enjoy the front row seat to the grace of God upon your life. So thank you for letting us be a part. Let's go to Pastor A right now for some great wisdom from Proverbs.
Welcome everyone, I'm Pastora A, and today we're stepping into the Book of Proverbs where God's wisdom meets daily life. Let's get started. Today let's look at Proverbs 2 verses 6 to 8. It says, "For the Lord grants wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He grants a treasure of common sense to the honest. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity. He guards the path of the just and protects those who are faithful to him." So what can we see and what can we learn from this passage? Well, simply put, first, God is our source. We also can come to him, we can ask for the wisdom, we can ask for the knowledge. But what is wisdom again? Wisdom is the application of knowledge. So when we ask and he speaks, the words he speaks is knowledge that we need to apply in our life to have wisdom. Let me say that again. So when we ask and he speaks, what he speaks is knowledge that we need to apply in our life to have wisdom. Now, verse 7 shows us that God is storing up wisdom that he can give to us. It comes out of his mouth. We then see three rewards here in this passage. Number 1, the reward of honesty. It's common sense in verse 7. Not just a little common sense, a whole treasure of common sense. Reward number 2 is the reward of integrity, because God is our shield, which we see in verse 7. God's job is to be my shield, and it is my job to walk in integrity. And number 3, we see a reward of being just and faithful. God guards and he protects. Now, we often think about the rewards that God blesses us with, sowing and reaping, or we think of the reward of our good works. But we can often forget that rewards that God brings into our life come also because we have chosen to live a good and godly lifestyle. We are to live a life that God can bless. Now, sometimes people tell us how we live doesn't really matter, or it's okay because we are walking in grace. Now, we do have grace, but that is not a license to live in a way that goes against God and goes against what he desires. So, what does this mean? It means our character and our lifestyle brings the promises of God in our life. So let's live a life that God can bless. Now, let's head over to Pastor Sumrall.
Our Old Testament passage tonight picks up in Genesis chapter 29, verse 1. We have seen Jacob now be driven out of his home because he and his mom conspired together. They deceived the father. We have a family disaster that has taken place. I preached a series many years ago called Great Men of Faith with Family Train Wrecks. And here is another great man of faith, Isaac, with a family train wreck. His family is now divided. Verse 1. Then Jacob hurried on, finally arriving in the land of the east. He's gone all the way back to Haran. He saw a well in the distance. 3 flocks of sheep and goats lay in an open field beside it, waiting to be watered. But a heavy stone covered the mouth of the well. It was the custom there to wait for all the flocks to arrive before removing the stone and watering the animals. Afterward, the stone would be placed back over the mouth of the well. Jacob went over to the shepherds and asked, "Where are you from, my friends?" "We are from Haran," they answered. Now, you need to understand the significance of that statement. They went all the way back to where Abraham began. It was in the city of Haran that Terah parked. It was in the city of Haran that God spoke to Abraham to leave his family and to leave his home and to go into the land that God would show him. I want you to notice what sin does. God forgives, and God doesn't necessarily change our destiny, but sin always takes us back to the beginning, and we start all over again. Sin takes you backwards out of the promise. Now, in the mercy of God, God brought him back into the promise, and God confirmed his covenant with him. That was the mercy of God. But sometimes in this modern world, preachers act as if sin has no consequences. And they teach young people today that sin has no consequences. Well, this young person learned that sin had consequences. He lost his family life, and he went back to where the promise began. Verse 5, "Do you know a man there named Laban, the grandson of Nahor?" he asked. "Yes, we do," they replied. "Is he doing well?" Jacob asked. "Yes, he's well," they answered. "Look, here comes his daughter Rachel with the flock now." Jacob said, "Look, it's still broad daylight, too early to round up the animals. Why don't you water the sheep and goats so they can go back out to pasture?" Now, here's an experienced man talking to them. "We can't water the animals until all the flocks have arrived," they replied. "Then the shepherds move the stone from the mouth of the well, and we water all the sheep and the goats." Jacob was still talking to them when Rachel arrived with her father's flock, for she was a shepherd. So notice we have female shepherds. And because Rachel was his cousin, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and because the sheep and goats belonged to his uncle Laban, Jacob went over to the well and moved the stone from its mouth and watered his uncle's flocks. Now, you have to put this in context with the rest of his life. In Genesis 25, verse 27, it says that he was a man who liked to stay home. But that doesn't mean that he was a weak man. He moved this stone by himself, whereas it took others, several men, to move this stone. So we can't look at Jacob as being a physically weak man. But he said, "No, I'm not going to wait for all this. These flocks here belong to my family members. This woman, this shepherd, is one of my family. I'm going to help." Then he kissed Rachel. Now, this is not a sexual kiss. This is a kiss of greeting. And if you've been with us to Israel, many years ago, we used to have a place we went and we'd buy a lot of wood products there. But the old man has gone to heaven now, and he was a Christian man from Bethlehem, and he had this olive wood store. His name was George. And he was always so much fun. Whenever I would walk into his shop, this old man would grab me with both hands on the side of my head, bend over my bald head, and put a big, juicy kiss on the top of my head. And if you know me, you know how embarrassed that made me every single time. It was not a sexual thing. It was a kiss of greeting. So now when Jacob kissed Rachel, this is not a sexual thing. This was a kiss of greeting. And he wept aloud. He explained to Rachel that he was her cousin on her father's side, the son of her aunt Rebekah. So Rachel quickly ran and told her father Laban. As soon as Laban heard his nephew Jacob had arrived, he ran out to meet him. He embraced and kissed him. Now here's another kiss. And brought him home. When Jacob had told him his story, Laban exclaimed, "You really are my flesh and blood." Now, I want you to notice Jacob told his story. ESV said, Jacob told Laban all these things. So there's some honesty here. There's no dishonesty now at the beginning of this relationship. Jacob told his story. After Jacob stayed with Laban for about a month, Laban said to him, "You shouldn't work for me without pay just because we're relatives. Tell me how much your wages should be." Now, here is the important truth. Now, some of you are going to get mad at me for this, so hold steady. Jacob was not a freeloading relative who just moved in and was lazy on vacation and just freeloaded off of everybody else's hard work. From the time Jacob showed up in Laban's house, he was out working, helping, and doing it for free because he stayed in their house. Now, my father raised me that when you're visiting somebody's home or you're staying in somebody's home, you help out. Whether that be do the dishes, help cooking, go grocery shopping, go to the store and buy some food and bring it home to share with everybody else because they're sharing with you. But when you're staying in somebody's home, you never freeload. When Uncle Lester was alive, I never stayed in a hotel. I always stayed at Uncle Lester's house. And he liked it because I cooked for him. I'd cook rice for him, and I'd cook sweet and sour shrimp for him, and he loved that kind of food because as he and his wife were getting older, it was difficult for Aunt Louise to cook. So I always cooked for him. But you never freeload. Now, some of you have freeloading relatives that move in and sit around the house and do nothing, and you have to go work hard and they do nothing. You should never allow people to stay in your house as freeloaders. Verse 16. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The older daughter was named Leah, and the younger one was Rachel. There was no sparkle in Leah's eyes, but Rachel had a beautiful figure and a lovely face. Since Jacob was in love with Rachel, he told her father, I'll work for you for 7 years if you give me Rachel, your younger daughter, as my wife. And notice he was very specific. He wanted the younger daughter. Agreed, Laban replied. I'd rather give her to you than anyone else. Stay and work for me. So Jacob worked 7 years to pay Rachel, but his love for her was so strong that it seemed to him but a few days. You know, sometimes you wonder about these young men that work hard and even help pay a girl's way through college or through master's degree or through medical school, and they even help the girl's family put her through school while they wait for her to graduate and then marry her. You wonder, how can the guys wait like that? Well, their love is strong. His love for her was so strong that it seemed to him but a few days. Finally, the time came for him to marry her. I have fulfilled my agreement, Jacob said to Laban. Now give me my wife so I can sleep with her. So Laban invited everyone in the neighborhood and prepared a wedding feast. That night, when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob and he slept with her. Now notice, just like, forgive me, Jacob had deceived his father and used his father's weakness with his eyes to deceive him. Now Laban used the darkness of night to deceive Jacob. Laban had given Leah a servant, Bilhah, to be her maid. But when Jacob woke up in the morning, it's light outside and he could see who he married. It was Leah. What have you done to me? Jacob raged at Laban. I worked 7 years for Rachel. Why have you tricked me? It was not our custom here to marry off the younger daughter ahead of the firstborn, Laban replied. But now wait a minute. He already agreed to this 7 years before. He already agreed, verse 19. So now he goes, wait a minute, it's not our custom. Well, why didn't you say that 7 years ago? Deception. Jacob is learning the most painful life lesson. You reap what you sow. He sowed deception. He reaped deception. And sometimes reaping what you sow is a very, very bitter pill to swallow. But wait until the bridal week is over, then we'll give you Rachel too, provided you promise to work another 7 years for me. Here is the purpose of the deception. Now, I want us to think about this for a moment. The purpose of the deception, in that 1 month, he had seen the blessings of God upon Jacob's life. In that first month when he was there, just as a visitor. So yes, he wanted him to work for 7 years. Now, in the last 7 years, he's really seen how much Jacob has accomplished and brought wealth to him. So he has deceived him, and now he gets 14 years of wealth brought by this young man. So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. A week after Jacob had married Leah, Laban gave him Rachel also. Laban gave Rachel a servant, Bilhah, to be her maid. So Jacob slept with Rachel too, and he loved her much more than Leah. He then stayed and worked for Laban an additional 7 years. Now I want you to notice, Rachel had to be a part of this deception also. She obeyed her father and kept her mouth shut. And Leah had a part of this deception also, so they both had some reaping to do. But the first reaping went to Rachel. She never got the big banquet. She never got the big wedding feast. Hers was a very quiet wedding. See, there's always a price to pay for sin. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he enabled her to have children. All right, this was Leah's problem. She was unloved. But Rachel could not conceive. Now, I actually wonder if Leah had relations with Jacob at all after that first night. We have no way of telling. But now, Leah became pregnant. So now, Jacob's having sex with 2 women. So Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and she named him Reuben. For she said, the Lord has noticed my misery, and now my husband will love me. These are very painful expectations she has. She thinks that if she has sex with him and gives him a child, he'll love her. But it didn't work. These are wrong expectations. She soon became pregnant again and gave birth to another son. She called him Simeon, for she said, the Lord has heard that I am unloved and has given me another son. Then she became pregnant a third time and gave birth to another son, and she named him Levi. For she said, surely this time my husband will feel affection for me, since I have given him 3 sons. Now, notice we move from love to affection. So she's downgrading her expectations. She realized this is never going to be what I wanted it to be. Verse 35. Once again, Leah becomes pregnant and gave birth to another son. She named him Judah, for she said, now I will praise the Lord. And then she stopped having children. Chapter 30, verse 1. When Rachel saw that she wasn't having any children for Jacob, she became jealous of her sister. She pleaded with Jacob, give me children or I'll die. Then Jacob became furious with Rachel. Am I God, he asked. He's the one who has kept you from having children. Now my question is, did he? Rachel then told him, take my maid Bilhah and sleep with her, for she will bear children for me, and through her I can have a family too. All right, so now Jacob is having sex with 3 women. Bilhah became pregnant and presented him a son. Rachel named him Dan, for she said, God has vindicated me. He has heard my request and given me a son. Then Bilhah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Rachel named him Naphtali, for she said, I have struggled hard with my sister, and I'm winning. Meanwhile, Leah realized she wasn't getting pregnant anymore, so she took her servant, Zilpah, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. So now he's having sex with 4 women. So Zilpah presented him a son. Leah named him Gad, for she said, how fortunate I am. Then Zilpah gave Jacob a second son, and Leah named him Asher, for she said, what joy is mine, now the other women will celebrate with me. One day during the wheat harvest, Reuben found some mandrakes growing in the field, and he brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel begged Leah, give me some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah angrily replied, wasn't it enough that you stole my husband? Now, did she steal her husband, or was this a conspiracy within the 2 girls and their father? Now, will you steal my son's mandrakes too? Rachel answered, I will let Jacob sleep with you tonight if you give me some mandrakes. So obviously, Rachel has some control over the sex life of Jacob and is deciding who he gets to sleep with. So that evening, as Jacob was coming home from the fields, Leah went out to meet him. You must come and sleep with me tonight, she said. I have paid for you with some mandrakes that my son found. I wonder how Jacob felt about that. So that night he slept with Leah. And God answered Leah's prayers, and she became pregnant again and gave birth to a 5th son for Jacob. She named him Issachar, for she said, God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband as a wife. Then Leah became pregnant again and gave birth to a 6th son for Jacob. She named him Zebulun, for she said, God has given me a good reward. Now my husband will treat me with respect. Now I want you to notice, her first expectation was to be loved. She downgraded it. Her second expectation was, he'll feel some affection for me. ESV says, he'll become attached to me. Neither one worked. Now she's downgraded her expectations, and now she's saying, he'll treat me with respect. Wow. Later, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by enabling her to have children. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. God has removed my disgrace, she said, and she named him Joseph. For she said, may the Lord add yet another son to my family. Verse 25. Soon after Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, please release me so that I can go back to my own country. Let me take my wives and children, for I have earned them by serving you, and let me be on my way. You certainly know how hard I have worked for you. Now, notice, all this occurs in that second 7-year period. All 12 children are born in that 7-year period. Please listen to me, Laban replied. I have become wealthy, for the Lord has blessed me because of you. He understood this. His nephew was better than any of his sons. See, now this is the blessing of association flowing up and not down. We saw the blessing of association flowing down from Abraham to Lot. Now we see the blessing of association flowing up from Jacob to Laban. Laban is the owner. He's the one in authority. Just like later with Joseph and Potiphar. See, sometimes you're working for people and their association with you and God's blessing upon your life makes them wealthy. Now, Laban understood this. Some people never understand it, but Laban understood it. He said, I've become wealthy, for the Lord has blessed me because of you. Tell me how much I owe you. Whatever it is, I'll pay you. Jacob replied, you know how hard I've worked for you, and how your flocks and herds have grown under my care. You had little indeed before I came, but your wealth has increased enormously. The Lord has blessed you through everything I have done. Wow. Now, that's not arrogance, that's just reality. But now, what about me? When can I start providing for my own family? Now, he's got 4 women and he's got all of these children. He has to think about providing for his own family. What wages do you want? Laban asked him. Jacob replied, don't give me anything. Now, this is how to value yourself. When people start negotiating your salary, don't give me anything. Just do one thing and I'll continue to tend and watch over your flocks. Now, here's an attitude that prospers. Let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that are speckled and spotted, along with all the black sheep. Give these to me as my wages. In the future, when you check the animals you have given me as my wages, you will see that I have been honest. If you find in my flock any goats without speckles or spots, or any sheep that are not black, you will know that I have stolen them from you. All right, Laban replied, it will be as you say. Now notice, in this contractual agreement for, forgive me, lack of a better term, income by commission, this is a commission-based income system. There has to be a way for honesty to be very clear. But that very day, Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted or had white patches, and all the black sheep. He placed them in the care of his own sons, who took them a 3 days' journey from where Jacob was. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock. Now, I want you to notice here, the salary for Jacob was to be the spotted and speckled and the black sheep. He said, give these to me as my wages. This was to be the salary. But notice what happens in verse 35. That very day, Laban took all of the goats and sheep that met the court requirement that should belong to Jacob and gave them to his own sons. So in essence, Jacob was starting from nothing. Genetically, it would be very difficult, according to Laban's thinking, for any of these sheep to ever be produced. That very day, Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted and had white patches, and all the black sheep, and placed them in the care of his own sons, who took them 3 days' journey from where Jacob was, while Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock. So it looked as if there's no way that Jacob's going to prosper. But God has shown Jacob a plan. Then Jacob took some fresh branches from the poplar, almond, and plane trees and peeled off the strips of bark, making white streaks on them. Then he placed these peeled branches in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, for that is where they mated. And when they mated in front of the white streaked branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated those lambs from Laban's flock, and at mating time he turned the flock to face Laban's animals that were streaked or black. That is how he built his own flock instead of increasing Laban's. Whenever the stronger animals were ready to mate, Jacob would place the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of them. Then they would mate in front of the branches. But he didn't do this with the weaker ones, so the weaker lambs belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones belonged to Jacob. As a result, Jacob became very wealthy with large flocks of sheep and goats, female and male servants, and many camels and donkeys. Now, this was God's plan, and we'll get into this in a later passage where how God had showed him how to do this. There was nothing magical about these branches. It was obedience of faith. God said, this is how I want you to do it. And as a result of his faith, these flocks produced the spotted, the speckled, and the black sheep. Even though Laban genetically took all of those out of the flock to begin with. So genetically, it would be impossible for Jacob to breed anything like that. So, on the one hand, Laban's using human effort to try to make sure that Jacob never prospers. On the other hand, God is showing Jacob a method that by faith brought great wealth to him. We have to stop there tonight. The Old Testament passages are taking us much longer, but these are absolutely beautiful stories. Father, I lift to you your people tonight. I ask that sickness and disease be far from their household. I ask, Lord, that healing flow into their homes. Father, healings from all kinds of itchy skin. You've redeemed us from the itch, Lord. Healing, Father, of their lungs and their kidneys. Father, those with cancer. Lord, let that cancer die at its roots, just like the fig tree. There's nothing too hard for you, Lord. We don't give up hope. We put our hope in the finished work of Jesus on the cross. Let your healing flow into their bodies, Father, in Jesus' name. And Father, let your peace be upon your people tonight. As they lay their heads on their pillows, let the rest of God come upon them. And Father, in Jesus' name, give sleep to your beloved. Amen. Good night. God bless you. We'll see you again tomorrow night.
Thank you for joining us today on the 1 Timothy 4:13 project with the undershepherds of the Cathedral of Praise Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall with Pastora Alisha Sumrall-Lozano. Catch their podcasts on all leading podcast platforms and listen through DZBR 531 or tune in online at www.bible.radio. The Cathedral of Praise is a church fully committed to Jesus Christ and His Word. Our main campus is located at 350 Taft Avenue, Metro Manila, Philippines. For a full list of COP campus locations and service schedules, visit us at cathedralofpraise.manila.com.ph. Tune in again tomorrow for another inspiring reading from the Old Testament and Proverbs.